Welcome back, warrior. We are on 2 Kings chapter 5. Naaman, the Syrian, comes to Elisha to be healed of leprosy. He rejects the prophet's instruction at first, but relents and dips himself in the Jordan 7 times. He is healed. Elisha refuses to accept a reward, and then Gehazi accepts a gift from Naaman and is cursed with leprosy. No, don't accept it. Okay. Gehazi is like the Elisha's helper, assistant, if you will, assistant to the prophet. Verse 1. Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Okay. And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, Would God, my Lord, were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. And one went in and told his Lord, saying, Thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, Go to and go. I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 changes of raiment. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, Now when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman my servant to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes and said, Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man doth send unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how to seeketh a quarrel against me. Okay, I don't know. We're going to keep reading to see what happens. And it was so, when Elisha, the man of God, had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elijah sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. Okay, so this is like a very simple request, but could be considered kind of like rude by him, because the prophet didn't come out to speak to him. It was just his assistant, right? So we're going to see how Naaman reacts. But Naaman was wroth and went away and said, Behold, I thought he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and strike his hand over the place and recover the leper. Okay, so he had a specific expectation or vision of what was supposed to take place, of what a prophet did. But that is not how the Lord works, and that's definitely not how prophets work. They're not going to work according to how we think things are going to go down, right? They're going to go down according to whatever the Lord says is going to go down. So, isn't it interesting too that like when we pray, we think our answer is going to come a certain way. Like that's how we know it was answered. And it's like, oh, I'm going to pray for this, and then that specific thing doesn't happen. And so then we think, well, the Lord didn't answer our prayer. But in a roundabout way, if we look back and think, how did the Lord answer my prayer? We can see the Lord did answer my prayer, but in a completely different way, right? And so, like, for example, when my husband and I were struggling with infertility, we went and we did the IVF, and we did that process twice, and both ended in early miscarriage. So we did not end up with receiving the answer to our prayer that we wanted. But 2 years later, we get our miracle baby girl, and she is just amazing. And is that the way that we wanted that prayer to be answered? No, because we thought it was going to be answered after we prayed and fasted and had everybody else pray and fast. And we thought it was going to happen through the IVF, because that is what happens. People go to IVF, people get it done, and people pray, and then it happens, you get a kid. Sometimes you get twins. I was hoping for twins, but I didn't get that either, right? And so the Lord is going to answer prayers that we have. He knows the desires of our hearts, but He is going to answer them in the best way for our growth, and not in the best way for our convenience, right? So it's just one of those things that we've learned throughout life, right? And we can't, you just can't argue with the Lord. And so anyway, we're at verse 11. Here we go. But Naaman was wroth because of this, right? So then verse 12, are not Abana and Pharpar rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. So he's just like, first he tells me he can't even come to my face and tell me what's going on and trying to bless me this way. But now he wants me to go to a different river that's not these two rivers. So that's crazy. Like, why wouldn't I want to wash in those two rivers? They're the cleaner, better ones, right? So now we have Naaman being really specific about what he wanted, right? So, and then verse 13, and his servants came near and spake unto him and said, my father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldst thou not have done it? How much rather then when he saith to thee, wash and be clean? Then went he down, so wash and be clean. Okay, sorry, I did not know how to read that. And then verse 14, then finally he listened and he's like, fine, like, I'm going to go and do it, I guess. Because yeah, I guess if he would have said some giant, wild, great thing, then I would have done that. But this is so simple. So it's like, what does he have to lose, right? So verse 14, then he went down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. See, that's all you had to do. Like, we just make it so hard on ourselves. We don't just do what God asks us to do. We fight, we protest, we get frustrated, get angry, and then we're just going to do it anyway because we want to try, because that's why we're coming to the Lord. So if you're just going to do it, then you don't need to complain about it, right? Anyway, so verse 15 now, and he turned to the man of God, and he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, behold, now I know that there is a God in all the earth, but in Israel now therefore I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant. And he said, as the Lord liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. So Naaman really wanted to give him a reward, but he's like, no thanks. And he argued with him and take it. He argued with, sorry, my eyes are getting real sleepy. And he argued, and he urged him to take it, but he refused, okay? But now Naaman said, shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules burden of earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Lord. So now he's very committed to the Lord, and he's not going to do the burnt offerings to anyone else, right? So that's good. That helped in his conversion. So in this thing, the Lord pardoned thy servant, that when my master goeth into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leaneth on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, when I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardoned thy servant in this thing. And he said unto him, go in peace. So he departed from him a little way. So I don't know what that means. Maybe that meant like, hey, I'm going to have to worship in this place anyway, so forgive me. I don't quite understand that. So then he said unto him, go. Okay, so then verse 20, but Gazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said, behold, my master hath spared Naaman this Syrian in not receiving at his hands that which he brought. But as the Lord liveth, I will run after him and take somewhat of him. So Gazi followed after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running, And when Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from the chariot to meet him and said, "Is all well?" And he said, "All is well. My master hath sent me, saying, Behold, even now there be come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver and two changes of garments." And Naaman said, "Be content. Take 2 talents." And he urged him and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of garments, and laid them upon 2 of his servants, and they bare them before him. And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand and bestowed them to the house, and he let the men go, and he departed. And he went in and stood before his master. And Elisha said unto him, "Whence comest thou, Gazi?" And he said, "Thy servant went no whither." So now he's lying. And he said unto him, "Went not mine heart with thee when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money and to receive garments and olive yards and vineyards and sheep and oxen?" Wow. And manservants and maidservants. We're on the last verse. Come on. Home stretch. "The leprosy, therefore, of Naaman shall cleave unto thee and unto thy seed forever." And he went out from his presence, a leper as white as snow. And so he wasn't supposed to receive any gifts, but he did. So that's what's sad about that. Okay, now we're going to read 2 Kings verse 5, or chapter 5. Read it, live it. It says, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing. So Naaman expected dramatic healing. Instead, he was quiet, Instead, it was a quiet, repeated act that healed him, right? Do the simple things. Do the simple things. It's just the simple things that really matter. Okay. I was going to see if there was any quotes that we can read. Okay, so we have a couple quotes. One from President M. Russell Ballard. He says, "Are we ever like Naaman the leper, expecting some great thing before we will pay attention to prophets?" I know, right? And this next quote from Brigham Young University Fireside from President Hunter said, quoted by Elder Rex D. Pinniger, but from President Hunter, says, "The achievement of true greatness is a long-term process. It seems that it always requires regular, consistent, small, and sometimes ordinary and mundane steps over a long period of time." End quote. What is true greatness? Brigham Young University, Devotional and Fireside Speeches, Provo, 1987. Okay, and then one more quote. Oh, excuse me. Elder Neil A. Maxwell, he says, we can accept help as we're going to start over. Okay, ready? Elder Neil A. Maxwell, notwithstanding my weakness, he says this, quote, "We can accept help as well as gladly give it." Happily, General Naaman received honest but helpful feedback from fellow generals, but not from his orderlies. In the economy of heaven, God does not send thunder if a still small voice is enough, or a prophet if a priest can do the job. End quote. Got that one. All right. Until 2 Kings chapter 6. Stay strong, warrior.